Podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Steve Summers on Demand. This is America's Truckin' Network with Steve Summers.
Back on a Friday, getting set for the weekend. Weather update, a service of Travel Centers of America, TA, and Petro Stopping Centers, where full service means at your service. Well, after a fairly wet first 2 weeks of January, it looks like we've got another round of storms is set to impact California. This time, most of the heavier rains and mountain snow will be northern portions of the state, as well as the Pacific Northwest, where January actually got off to a much drier start. The southern branch of the jet stream, very active because of the strong El Nino pattern. Going to be bringing a lot of moisture via the so-called atmospheric river toward California. Strongest in the series of storms could bring rainfall heavy enough to lead once again to flooding concerns by the start of next week. Meanwhile, the Cascades and the Sierra Nevada in line once again for several feet of additional snow over the next week or so from this weather pattern. So that's good news for the ski areas. Also good news for the long-term drought that still has most of California entrenched in. Snow content across the Sierra Nevada is essentially normal, sitting at 101% of average for this time of year as of Wednesday this week. So you go back same time last year, the snowpack was just 37% of normal. So this is a good move in the right direction, they say, for drought relief as the snow melt later in the season plays a big role replenishing the reservoirs and the water table in California. So in a much better position than we were this time 1 year ago. Looking at our Friday, the first batch of moisture has been relatively modest with light precip tapering off as it moves southeast from the west coast through the Great Basin in the southwest. We have winter weather advisories posted for portions of Northern California as well as the Cascades of Oregon tonight, mainly elevations above 3,000 feet. Some areas maybe see 6 to 12 inches of snow by early Friday. As much as 8 inches of snow already reported near Susanville, California this past evening. A bit of that may survive the trek across the mountains and bring a little bit of light snow and snow showers to parts of Idaho, Nevada, Utah, western Colorado, and maybe northern Arizona today. Winter weather advisories are in effect for some of those areas right on through Friday morning. We'll take a look further ahead Saturday and into early next week where, again, some of the snowfall totals are going to be in the feet in some of the higher elevations, the Sierra, as well as the Cascades. Some areas could actually easily eclipse 3 feet of snowfall. Now, Dan was asking about oil prices. Yeah, the latest from the past day. Yeah. Oil prices did sink below $30 per barrel Tuesday of this week for the first time since 2003. Actual barrels of Saudi Arabian crude shipped to Asia are even cheaper at $26, the lowest since early 2002. Yeah, these slumping oil prices, a critical sign that the boom in lending in China is unwinding. Slowing investment, slowing construction. China, the world's biggest energy user, is spending an enormous deflationary impetus virtually around the world. And that's a big part of what's happening, they say, when it comes to the collapse of oil prices. So Saudi prices would be less than $17 per barrel if you convert it into dollar levels for 1998. That's the year oil sank to the lowest since the 1980s. Yeah, we get to see the benefit at the pump, but Yeah, oil converted. There's a graph here converting oil to $19.98. It would be $17 per barrel. All right, thanks for hanging in there, Dan. Welcome back.
Well, yeah. Thank you for letting me stay on. I mean, the other thing. First of all, I just want to say I think that these moderators, especially that Maria Bartiromo, I mean, they had some very good questions that I learned a lot from. Like one of the things, and this did impress me about Trump, and for some reason, Steve, I think you're a Trump supporter, which is fine, but there's something about that voting for that guy. You know what I'm saying? That I don't. I mean, I would never vote for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Never, ever. But there's just something. But he impressed me tonight, and I didn't know that this is such a big issue in this country, but it is. That's U.S. companies, and I should know this because I have a personal involvement in one business that this has happened. But like Anheuser-Busch was bought by InBev, which is a Belgian company.
Right.
And these companies, and I can tell you, for instance, and I and my family own a school bus service company. Well, our the largest competitors are Durham and First Student. They're both offshore companies. And they bought companies over here, followed the InBev model or whatever else. And I guess this is happening, thousands of companies where this is happening. I mean, it's not just that the company takes the factory and moves it out of the United States. They move the whole headquarters because of our corporate tax structure. And I really think that, and again, I didn't understand the issue until until this came up. And so, I mean, until this debate was, and I learned something from it. I don't know if I fully understand it, but and I do like Ted Cruz's tax plan. I really do. Send in a postcard. You know what I'm saying?
His plan's the what? He was trying to describe what, like a 10% sort of thing. Is that his?
Everybody pays 10%.
Yeah. Is
my understanding of it. And then at the end of the year, you send in. You don't send in schedules like I've got a rather large tax. Like most of your owner operators have schedules C and D and whatever else, or farms, they've got a lot of extra schedules. All that's eliminated. You pay 10%, and I believe it's 10% on the gross. And if you do that, if everybody pays the 10% on the gross, then, and again, I don't know what deductions, well, number one, you're going to add a lot of people to the tax rolls, and you send in a postcard, and you eliminate these billions of dollars it costs to collect this money. I mean, I had a family member that filled out a W-2 wrong, and basically he checked the wrong thing, and it said he was blind. Well, I guess there's a deduction for a blind person.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Yeah, and he ended up owing, and he made less than $20,000 first job. He ended up owing about $5,000, and we just paid it because you can't go around with tax liens. So, I guess my point is the American public, and I'll tell you something else, Steve, this Bernie Sanders, people can call him, laugh and joke and all this stuff. Listen to a political scientist from some college, and he's thinking Sanders is getting between 10 and 20% of Republican votes.
Really?
Yeah, and I could understand that. Somebody who's out of a job, you know what I'm saying? Somebody, who doesn't like the way government's going. The one thing about Sanders is he has integrity. And by that I mean he believes what he's doing. I don't know if you remember this guy, Paul Wellstone, the Minnesota senator that died in a plane crash campaigning for re-election. Extremely liberal. And I had family members up there and they're very conservative. They voted for this guy, Wellstone. And if a candidate has impeccable integrity, he can win voters that normally you would not think are aligned with him. Todd Aiken from Missouri, he was that way. He was, at one point, his congressional district was in a very liberal Jewish area. And I thought, this guy, how does he keep winning? Well, if their integrity's there, you know what I'm saying? And that's what's killing Hillary Clinton right now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't trust the woman. I mean, I believe it sadly, I trust her less than I do her husband. And I mean, I just think the woman's, I mean, well, I honestly, I don't think, Steve, I'd like to hear your thoughts, but I don't think she's going to be in the race. I really don't. I just can't imagine that the Democrats, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
are if they don't want Sanders, then how are you going to get somebody else in unless she releases her delegates? Because I just think it's a house of cards coming down on her, as it rightfully should. But no, all in all, it was a good debate, and I don't like, though, this Cruz coming up, and I hear that a lot. It's us against them. You start.
You know, I think Dan, he ran between cells, but all right, good stuff. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you, Dan. Have a great weekend. Yeah, I get the sense of the Trumpster. I like Trump. Even realizing that he's supported a lot of the Democratic issues for many years. Could you call him a moderate Democrat or a left-leaning Republican? He kind of falls in between. He's got his good points, and he's got. I have some concerns about the man that is elected president, or a woman, is going to have. Well, I guess anybody be better than what we've had for the past 7 years when it comes to international relations. They're going to be dealing with the likes of Vladimir Putin and the Middle East, which is a tinderbox, and they've got to make some tough decisions. Would Trump be the right guy to handle those sort of international affairs? Yeah, we're talking to a guy who has virtually no political experience. I love the fact that he's the businessman that he is. I love his sentiment about being concerned about America. Make America great again. It's not our job to be concerned about China and all these underdeveloped countries. Job of the president is to do what's in the best interest of the United States of America. He's president of the United States, not president of the world, which many times I feel like Barack Obama feels he's president of the world. But we got to get a quick time out in here. Toll free, it's 888-860-8785. Back after this on ATN, driven by Celadon and driveceladon.com. We'll get back to the Little Clinic listener line momentarily. Totally separate issue, but realizing that so many of you out there have your companions riding along with you, as in many cases dogs and cats and other critters in some cases, but realizing that most of you end up having to stop in places like rest areas and truck stops, and dogs have to share the same areas to do their business and all that. There's apparently a dangerous new strain of the dog flu that's spreading concern in parts of the country. Montana is one area where, and the real advice is if you're using like kennels or you're taking your dogs to the vet and things like that, or doggy parks, much like you're going to be dealing with at rest stops and things like that, travel centers, you got to be cautious about this. In Chicago, the dog flu spread so quickly last year that some of the shelters were actually forced to close their doors, according to the report from CBS. So, of course, doggies can get sick just like us. And I don't like to be sick. None of the dogs apparently they do not have the immunity to fight it off. So we're seeing a large number of dogs getting ill as the virus starts to circulate. When dogs, as I said, are going to daycare, dog parks, boarding, overnight in kennel facilities, it can spread very rapidly, they're saying. Cases first started showing up back in March in Chicago and spread quickly. Several thousand dogs in 24 states have now been infected with this. So, veterinarians say it's rarely fatal, but you should see a vet right away if your dog shows symptoms. If your dog doesn't eat well, misses a meal, if you see coughing, lethargy, just being tired, kind of moping around, it could be a sign of a fever. If you see that, give your local vet a call and schedule an appointment because they'll need to get your doggy on some special medications, they're saying. So, and I believe that a vaccine for this, the doggy flu vaccine, was made available, I think, back in November. So, yeah, vaccine was made available in November. So something you might want to check into. Because we all love our pups, right? Morning, Horse Feathers.
Good morning, Your Honor. Yeah, and if we love our pets, we feed them atomic wings, right?
That was an accident.
That's what they all say. Hey, I'm sorry. I was going to take my Powerball winnings there. I had it all set up. I knew what I was going to do. I had you in mind. I was going to have you all set up for the rest of your life there. I was going to buy that Al Jazeera TV network there.
Oh boy, yeah, right.
And I was gonna change the name there to the American Trucking Network News and have 24 hours of Steve Summers.
Yeah, is that a surprise to you that Al Jazeera America did not go over well?
Yeah, what's up with that? I figured the Al Gore Network there shouldn't have been any problem with that. That was a good plan right from the beginning.
Yeah, hardly any of the cable providers wanted to carry it to begin with, and for those that did, nobody wanted to watch it. It's like, so yeah. For people that haven't heard, I guess have they shut down already, or they're going to be shutting down? They're done.
April, I believe, is their end date.
Okay.
So, but they said, like, what was it? I guess it would be the Nielsen's would have been the one that would have had their ratings, and that said they had a consistent 40,000 viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it?
That's
in the whole country.
That's not good for a medium market radio station,
Yeah, but I just had to have some way to broadcast all their propaganda, didn't they?
That's it.
I figured that would have, but I don't know. Maybe that's the first part to shut them down. But I kind of like the idea that somebody went in. Who was it went in and took out one of their banks, took out some of their financial parts. So I guess, was it us that bombed their bank or somebody else?
I don't recall. You mean ISIS or who?
Yeah. ISIS,
yeah, well, that was us. Yeah, we bombed their bank in Mosul, I think it was.
Yeah, well, why didn't we do that a long time ago? And all their money comes from the black market oil. How come we haven't dropped a couple bombs in their oil refineries and cut down their
supposedly we are targeting some of those things right now, but yeah, honestly, what I've heard is Obama didn't like bombing oil facilities because it would be an environmental hazard, you see. We'll be right back on ATN, driven by Celadon and drive Celadon.com. So I was sitting at the computer this past morning just scouring through this, and then I, for whatever reason, ended up doing searching for the ATN logo that I was going to attach to something, and I started coming across some of the different articles and things. I did a lot of stuff out there that I didn't realize even existed about ATN, and I came across a story from, believe it or not, it's from 2014, but the heading is Truckers Reveal Their Favorite Radio Shows. I wish I would have known about this then. I would have used it in my contract negotiations. It was a close race for first. But in a recent survey of truck drivers' favorite radio shows, Howard Stern came out with 18%. Close behind Stern, America's Trucking Network, hosted by Steve Summers. The favorite show for 17%. How about that? And there's a pie chart here, and this runs the gamut. I mean, so their question was, what is your favorite radio? It could be anything. The freight management company, Go By Truck, conducted the survey. I guess they cater to both company and independent drivers. The Howard Stern Show's brusque tone, unapologetic opinions, the wild antics keep truck drivers entertained during the long hours on the road. America's Trucking Network, which fills the overnight hours adjacent to Stern's morning show, giving drivers a mix of news and banter. It also enjoys some longtime fans who began listening to the show when Summers' father, the Truckin' Bozo, hosted the same time slot. Coming in third with 9% of the vote, Bubba the Love Sponge. Plenty of truck drivers, apparently, that are fluent in Bubba speak. So, kind of a fast-paced show. Sports news, brass commentary. 4 shows tied for fourth, each chosen by 7% of drivers. Now, again, this was in 2014, before Opie and Anthony had gone away. Opie and Anthony, Dave Nemo Entertainment, the Glenn Beck program, and Coast to Coast, all tied for fourth. Of all those shows, Dave Nemo Entertainment received the most positive comments. He keeps me updated on the ever-changing FMCSA regulations, according to one voter. Honorable mentions go to conservative commentators Rush Limbaugh and Mark Levin. Their shows each garnered favorite votes from 5% of the drivers in the survey. So how about that? Yeah, there were some other. Red Eye Radio, 2%. Ron and Fez, I'm not familiar with, 3%. Bob and Tom, 2%. Who'd we miss? Dave Ramsey, 2%. But how about that? Right on the heels of Howard Stern. Now, I only wish I garnered a paycheck that was anywhere close to Howard Stern's. All right, horse fellas, welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for stepping me back on the curb there. Always appreciate that. But yeah, that's a pretty good deal there. I've always kicked over to you, in the overnight. You never really strayed away, As that report said, I was there with your dad. I mean, I've been with the ATN and the Truckin' Bozo for probably just a little bit longer than you have. I bet you it's probably been like 21, 22 years there. I was probably listening probably a year or two before you came along. Mm-hmm. And but no, I've always enjoyed your show. It's always kept us up, and there's nothing like a little bit of bantering going on in the overnight. You have to have that banter. So. No, that'll be good there. But what was that show there? You said come in with the program that came in third there. Something about a sponge or something.
Bubba the Love Sponge.
Bubba, that sounds like just something the spaceman be watching. That'd be a spaceman type show, wouldn't it?
There was a time when Bubba the Love Sponge actually worked here in Cincinnati out of WEBM, which is like right next door. We were still at the old studios. Down in Mount Adams, but I think he did 9 to midnight, and we get to rub elbows with Bubba the Love Sponge every night before we would go on the air.
All right, well, I got to explain.
Bubba the Love Sponge said the Truckin' Bozo was his daddy,
I completely missed the whole Bubba the Love Sponge thing. I never even knew about it.
Yeah, I think he's last I heard he was in Florida. I think that's where he's at now. So.
All right, so it's on terrestrial type radio or is it on the satellite?
Well, I think he's still part of like the iHeart, so he's probably on the iHeart radio, I believe.
All right, well, maybe I'll check in there. Maybe there'll be some of those podcasts or something. Maybe I can look into that. But never heard of that before. But it's kind of out of the realm of my hours there because, my day usually starts sometime about the time after you come on, and then I stretch out my 14 hours there and stretch my rubber band out for the first 7 and then get snapped back home,
He's kind of like, he's more of a stern, shock jock, I think the reason he ended up getting booted from Cincinnati, he did something that offended a group. I don't know, the handicapped, mentally handicapped. I don't know. He did some sort of a retard Wednesday or something, and that's it's like, oh, dude, you're fired.
Yeah, but doesn't all those types of shows do that? I mean, Opie and Anthony, they were good at doing that, and Ron and Fez. I mean,
that's why they call them shock
somebody.
Jocks. Yeah, he had a sexual theme to his show every night. It was like, what do you call it? Free balling Thursdays and no panty Wednesdays, and he'd talk to chicks and get them to rub the phone on their private parts and stuff. That kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's stuff that could never happen on ATN. We're above that.
Right.
But anyway, that's pretty funny though. But no, I'm glad you brought that up. You brought a little enlightenment to my knowledge of trucking radio and overnight radio. So, but anyways, I guess I don't know. That's probably about all we got for you there. But I just want to let you know if I'd won that Powerball there, I would have bought that Al Jazeera America Network and put ATN on it. We would have had 24 hours of ATN News with Steve Summers.
There you go. Well, thank you much, Horse Feathers. Have a good weekend. Good to hear from you. Then I came across another article. This one was a bit more recent. Yeah, about 8 months ago. Must-have radio stations for truck drivers. Yeah, whether you're a religious or political talk show listener or a music guru, chances are you have your radio on during your hauls. After all, endless hours on the road can get pretty dull if you don't have some good noise to cruise along to. Some of you might have your favorite FM or AM stations programmed for your route, or you've got your favorite CDs lined up for each trip, but have you tried satellite radio? How about iHeartRadio? If you're already hooked, you might not know all the stations aimed right at you that you could be listening to on the road. Now, they point out some sort of a radio app. Tune in. I'm not familiar. I'm assuming iHeart is probably a direct competitor with that. Let's see. Number 2 on their list was America's Trucking Network, heard nightly on 700 WLW and anytime on iHeartRadio. You can listen to all the broadcasts on the TuneIn app or your smartphone or your tablet. America's Trucking Network is said to have the best source of information available. Well, how about that? I don't know who said that, but I was very pleased to come across some of those articles. How about that? Accolades. A little pat on the back. We got an email from, speaking of the FMCSA and changes taking place, got an email from the New Englander, and oddly enough, actually had a story about the Volpe Center, which, of course, that's the New Englander, where she works. Give you more on that coming up here. And she's actually one who keeps up via the podcasts and iHeartRadio from there in New England, obviously. Catches up with what's going on in the industry during the day. So we'll be right back on ATN, driven by Celadon and DriveCeladon.com. Okay, let me see here. First, from the email bag, and which obviously proves she tuned into the podcast yesterday. Morning, Steve, or evening, Steve. Hope this email finds you and your audience well. After catching up on the podcast, I figured I'd address a few points. First, I want to again thank Kid Fox for sharing his perspectives and thoughts. I've enjoyed what has been a very civil exchange of different beliefs and perspectives. I look forward to more of the same. If it's okay with your wife, perhaps we can meet for coffee the next time I'm in Cincinnati. I'd also like to extend an olive branch to the Grump. While I find him a bit coarse, I can at least appreciate the passion and intelligence he brings to the table. More importantly, I want to address the issue of the week, which was kind of like last night's. Somehow we got on this. The battle of the beer snobs. You see, you're not a true beer snob until you've had a fine Belgium ale. Not just any Belgium ale, but Brewdog's End of History at $750 a bottle. Actually, it's a squirrel. This 110 proof concoction is the ultimate initiation into the beer snob club. Then she sent me a link to this, I guess the world's most shocking beer, a story that ran on NBC. So I'll have to see about pulling that up. But she says, enjoy and drink responsibly. Respectively, the New Englander. All right, well, thanks for the email. Then I did have this story from the Truckers News. The Department of Transportation's Volpe Center, which plans to hire a new director early this year, has set 6 goals for the coming year. Volpe director Robert Johns left the post at the end of December to return to his home state of Minnesota. After 6 years leading the Volpe Center, Johns will rejoin the University of Minnesota as a senior fellow in the Humphrey School of Public Affairs. Now, in his new position, Johns will support transportation-related research in regional policy and planning and will teach graduate courses in leadership and management. The Volpe Center, established in 1970 to provide analytical, scientific, and engineering support to the DOT. Named for President Richard Nixon's first Secretary of Transportation and former Massachusetts Governor John Volpe. By the way, the Volpe Center is accepting applications for the director's job until February the 19th. Hey, Grump, what do you think? How'd you like to get up there and, like rub elbows with those eggheads every day, as you call them? The 6 issues will be priorities for the staff of technical researchers, engineers, economists, statistical and policy analysts, and blah, 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 according to the news release that's stated. These are the 6 things that are, I guess, prioritized for this year. Advanced automation and emerging technologies, such as the next-gen systems development, which supports the Federal Aviation Administration's efforts to modernize America's airspace. Number 2, breakthroughs in safety, advances in technology, engineering, and human factors research, providing new insights into solutions to long-term persistent problems that can dramatically reduce transportation fatalities and injuries. Data analytics, visualization, real-time decision-making. We see a chance for a new paradigm in data-driven decision-making for transportation, according to the Volpe Center. By coupling the latest data tools with state-of-the-art hardware. What else? Transportation, energy, and sustainability. The growing threats of climate change, shifting fuel markets, and other environmental concerns. Transportation system resiliency. And last on the list was on-demand mobility, smart cities, and livable communities. New transportation options are emerging that use innovative service delivery models for transporting people and freight. The Volpe Center will work to integrate these options into the transportation system. You got to be an egghead, I guess, to comprehend what they're working on. But that's what they do at the Volpe Center, so there you go. Now, back to the Little Clinic listener line after this on ATN, driven by Celadon and driveceladon.com. Well, after all the hype, the drawing Wednesday night, of course, there were 3 winning lottery tickets sold for the Powerball. None of the 3 have yet come forward, but yeah, so the 3 are going to split that $1.6 billion jackpot. But The final figures look like this. More than 26 million tickets won some sort of prize. And many of them not too shabby. Yeah, some in each category even doubled their winnings by paying an extra dollar. That's the whole power play thing. But 73 people out there around the country earned $1 million. Now, there were 8 others that paid that extra buck and doubled their winnings. $2 million. If you match 4 of the white balls plus the Powerball, there were 934 people who did that. And that's a $50,000 prize. That's not too shabby, but so a total of $52.05 million being divvied out there. You know, the rest of it, you had about 23,000 plus $100 tickets, and then a lot of people winning like $7 and $4, but who cares about that? I had won $4 the week before. Big whoop-de-doo, right? I think I hung up on him. Whoops. Hello, Hillbilly.
Well, I ain't one of them. I did. If my ticket was a hand grenade, this truck would have blown up because I had a 9 for the Powerball number. 5, I think it's 5, 9, 28. I don't know what the other 2 was, but it's almost. I started laughing when I seen that. Like just my luck, one number off. But that's pretty cool about you having the number 2 spot next to Harold Stern.
According to that survey, thank you very much, drivers, whoever participated in that survey. Yeah,
that's quite an honor, I guess.
That's pretty. That's damn good company.
You get to watch much of the debate last night?
I didn't get to watch any of it. I listened to a bit when I was getting ready for work, and of course when I was driving in, I had it tuned in. So.
Yeah, the first part of it, I kind of called it the Ted Cruz debate because he got the first question, the last question of the first segment, and then the first question of the second segment. I'm like, that's kind of unfair, but and then it started to even out after that. I'm like, well, but that shows for some reason Fox don't like Donald Trump at all, and it kind of showed there in my eyes. But maybe I'm just being biased because I like Trump so much. I don't know.
Yeah, ever since that first debate, I guess he's urinated them off a bit. He's back and forth, when he went after Megyn Kelly, then he went after, at one point he said he wouldn't go on Fox, and then he kind of retracted that. And
right.
They've been butting heads for a while now.
But I'm like everyone else. I think there's 3 ponies in this race, and was there one more debate left? That's it, or?
I'm not sure about that. I'd have to pull up the schedule.
I don't know how many more is left, but it was entertaining at that point. And Ben Carson, I thought he was pathetic. Really, it seemed like he was unprepared and just not really into it. But that's just how it came off of me on the radio. But I think it's going to come down to Trump and Sanders. Not Sanders, but Trump.
Trump and Cruz?
Yeah, thank you. My name's messed up here. But it's going to come down to the final 2. But
I pulled the schedule up here. No, there's a handful of debates left. You got, let's see, January the 28th will be the next one in Iowa. February 6th in New Hampshire. February 13th, South Carolina. February 26th in Houston, Texas. And then March of 2016. I guess they've got 2 further debates there. So there's a bunch of debates yet to come as the field gets whittled down. Back after this on ATN, driven by Celadon and drive Celadon.com.